Welcome to this practice intended to warm up a bit and then stretch the legs. If your legs tend to be on the tighter side, you might benefit from having a couple of blocks, and if you don't have blocks, a couple of books. We're going to begin our practice in child's pose. You can put your knees together or have them a little bit apart. Together will be a lighter stretch for the back, whereas apart a little bit more for the hips. Wander your hands forwards, and if possible, rest your head down to the floor. Begin to breathe in and out through your nose, filling into the back of your body, relaxing your hips, full inhales and long exhales. Adding a little bit of ujjayi to the breathing, that's a slight constriction of your throat on the exhale to make a soft sound. You can begin to creep your fingertips away from you, starting to stretch your spine a bit. And let's walk the hands over to the right hand side. So creep them off your mat over to the right. You can put your left hand on top of the right if you like. And breathe into the left side of your ribs. Nice full breaths. Anchoring the left hand and the left hip. Walk your hands through the middle of the mat and over to the left. This time you can have both hands adjacent to one another or place your right hand on top of the left. Nice and heavy through the right sit bone, right hand anchored down, and breathe into the right ribs. Wander your hands back to the middle and come up to all fours. Place your shoulders right over your wrists and your hips right over your knees. Begin a little bit of movement for the spine. Inhale, lift your tailbone up, look forwards. Belly goes down towards the floor. And when you exhale, bring your navel up, chin down towards your chest. Inhaling, tilting your tailbone up. Crown lifting up, chest pulling forwards. Exhale, draw the navel up again, push through your arms. Take a few more of these, just mobilizing the spine and especially focusing on the movement of the pelvis. Quite often we think that our hamstrings are super tight and that's the majority of our problem, but in fact it can also be really closely associated to this ability to move the pelvis in anterior and posterior tilt. And cat-cows can really help with that. Just another move at your pace, there's no rush. And we'll come back to a neutral spine. Walk your hands forwards a couple of inches. And let's come straight up into a downward facing dog. So that's tucking your toes and lifting your hips up and back. You can keep your knees a little bit bent, especially if your legs are feeling a little tighter today. Press your chest back towards the thighs a bit. Elevate the shoulders, so push into the ground. Relax your neck so you're looking back at your feet. Remember to breathe. And you can sway around a little bit for a start, either hips side to side or a little pedaling action in the legs. Just see what's going on in them today. Let's find a little bit of stillness. Both legs even. Again, shoulders elevated, hands strong. Relax your jaw. If the heels can start to descend a bit, let them down. But remember to keep the length through the low back. Don't let that round. One more breath here.
Nice full inhale. And long exhale. Look forwards on your mat and start to walk your feet up to your hands. And when we get to the top of the mat, we're going to dangle. So feet hip distance apart. Bend your knees. Letting the belly rest towards the thighs and let your neck and shoulders relax. If you want, you can keep your hands on the ground. You could also clasp your hands into opposite elbow. It can feel nice here to sway. Just let the weight of your head traction the spine and release some tension from the low back. We're going to lift up halfway. Bring your hands to your thighs or your shins and draw your shoulder blades onto your back. Think about engaging the belly up too. And exhale, now fold, keeping the legs straight. This is where those blocks can be really useful. If you can't comfortably touch the ground with your hands, place the blocks or books or whatever you have underneath your fingers and bring the ground up to you. Your priority as we stretch the legs here is keeping the spine nice and neutral and resisting the urge to round it to reach deeper. So use the blocks if you'd like. If you feel comfortable without them, you can rest your hands on the floor. Feet are about hip distance still. We'll bend your right knee. Let the right hip drop lower than the left, and you'll feel a stretch now come into the outside of your left leg, into the IT band between the knee and that outer hip. Remember to breathe. 2 more breaths here. And let's switch sides. Straighten out the right leg, left knee bending. Let that left hip go a little lower than the right. Both heels stay on the ground. And a couple of deep breaths here too. Nice long inhales that lengthen your torso. And exhales that encourage you to stretch. And let's straighten out both legs again. Hands still on the blocks if you need them. Let's lift up halfway again, hands to thighs or shins, shoulders onto your back. Exhale and fold. Bend your knees a little bit. Circle your hands up. Stretch high to the ceiling, looking up. And bring your hands to your heart as you exhale. Step your feet close together. Big toes touching, but heels just a little bit apart. So just about an inch or so apart. We're going to sit back as if sitting into a chair. This is here in this practice to warm the legs up, so get nice and low if you can. Weight in your heels so your toes could still wiggle. And if you want even more energy into the practice, stretch your hands up. Take another deep breath here, sitting as low as you feel like you can. Good, breathe in. And as you exhale, stretch the legs out again. You can be using the blocks still. Separate the feet. Lift up and lengthen. Half lift, shoulders on your back, feet apart and hands down. Step your way back to a plank. So you're one straight line from your hips, your heels to your shoulders. Push into your arms. Breathe in. Shift forwards to toes. Drop your knees to the ground and slowly lower down. Keep your belly engaged as you do Chaturanga. Tops of your feet to the mat, press them down, roll your chest up, keeping your elbows squeezed in and breathe in, stretch into your front. As you exhale, soften down, press your way up and back, downward facing dog. Your feet at least hip distance apart and your shoulders, hands at least shoulder distance apart. Keep the spine long. Take a deep breath in and long breath out. Looking forwards, step or walk your way up to your hands again. Halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana, that's hands up a little, give yourself space to lengthen out. Exhale, fold forwards. Keep your quads active to help you deepen your fold. Bend your knees a little bit, circle your hands out and up, reaching and looking up. Hands to your heart. Again, bring your feet close together. The heels are a little bit separate. Let's go again. Inhale, the hands up, hips low. Lots of fire in the legs. Exhale, stretch your legs out, Uttanasana. Lift and lengthen. Ribs and belly up. Plank pose, step your way back. Take an extra breath today, breathe in. Shift forwards, peer over the front of your mat. You can drop your knees down if you'd like. Slowly lower down, elbows stay close to the ribs, Chaturanga. All the way to the floor, Cobra, lift your chest up. Tops of the feet stay rooted down. Exhale, press it back up to a downward facing dog. You can shorten up a little bit, but not too much. Keep your belly engaged. Keep pushing into the ground and keep your face relaxed. Just 2 breaths here today. And sit one more. Breathing in energy, looking forwards, make your way up to your hands, walking or stepping. Halfway lift, shoulders on your back, strong quads, forward fold. Soften the knees, take your hands out and up again, standing Tadasana with the hands overhead. Hands to heart, exhale. Final round. Bend your knees, chair, Utkatasana, hands go up. Sit a little lower this round. Weight in the heels. Breathing in. Stretch the legs out, exhale. Half lift, lengthen out. The hands can be lower as long as your back flattens out. Step your way back to plank. Take your breath in. Shift forwards, knees up or down, your choice. Chaturanga. Cobra. Roll the chest up. Downward facing dog. Steady your breath. Lengthen the spine. Feel heavy in the heels, like you're hiding them from yourself. Take a breath in, looking forwards, walk your way up to your hands. Half lift again, final time here, exhaling and folding. Circle your hands up, reach high, ribs and belly in, hands to your heart. Pause for a moment. Feel balanced, left and right and front to back through the feet. Let's continue. Take your hands up and breathe in. Exhale, fold forwards. Now let's get into those leg stretches. Step your right foot to the back. Let your right knee come down to the ground. If you like, you can put a blanket underneath your knee, especially if you feel some pressure that's uncomfortable. Walk your hands up onto your left knee and start to lunge forwards and down in your hips. You can lift your chest a bit here. The goal is to be stretching into the front of a right quad and the hip flexor, so feeling some sensation of stretch there, though you might feel it elsewhere and that's okay. For stability, hug your left hip back a bit and right outer hip forwards energetically, and you might feel yourself lift a bit, but also then able to deepen. Pause here for a couple more breaths. Good, just one more, hang in there. Get in a little bit deeper if you feel like you can. And let's get into the hamstring of the left leg. You might need your block for this, especially if your hamstrings are on the tighter side. You will stretch the left leg out until it's straight. If your hips end up behind the knee, walk that left foot forwards a bit. So you would like to be able to straighten your left leg and flex the foot while keeping your right hip directly over the knee. Once your foot's flexed, your leg is fairly straight, you'll start to bow forwards a bit. If your hamstrings are a little stiff or tighter, you'll be high up here. If you start to feel a little bit more comfortable, you'll go forwards, but try to keep your spine long without rounding it. Think about the center of your chest reaching towards your toes. Bowing down. If you're quite flexible, you may not be using the blocks, but you also might need to be mindful of the knee. Some people have quite flexible joints and you don't want to hyperextend the knee, so you might need to soften your knee just a little bit to keep that stretch comfortable and safe. I'll take 2 more deep breaths here, just bowing down as far as you can comfortably. Good. Bend into your front knee again and walk your left foot out to the left. Now the hands are both inside of the left knee. This is lizard. You can place your hands flat on the floor and you can even go a little bit deeper. You might use blocks for that. You could put your elbows onto your blocks as you go down. And if you're comfortable with that and you can breathe, you might bring your hands, forearms to the floor. In this position, think about taking your left knee off to the left, rolling to the outside of the foot, and that will transfer the stretch into a slightly different sensation. Maybe a little bit more in the glute. I'll take 2 more deep breaths here. Good. Come up onto your hands. Walk that left foot back in front of its hip and tuck your back toes. Lift the back knee up and turn 90 degrees to your right. But now in a wide-legged fold, you might reposition the feet a little bit. Slightly turn your toes in, just a little. Lift your tailbone up and fold forwards. Rest your hands on the floor in the first instance, maybe even on your blocks. And if you're comfortably folding, you can walk your hands back behind you. And once your arms are at extension, you start to bend your elbows a little bit to 90 degrees to give you a good stretch. Wherever you're at, don't force it, relax your face and breathe. Walk your hands back under you if they were behind you. And turn towards your right foot, so towards the back of your mat. Let your left knee come down to the ground. And walk your hands up onto your right knee, just like we did on the other side. Lift your chest up. Let your hips start to move forwards and down. Remember to breathe. And remember that stability in this pose comes from hugging your right hip and foot back a little, and left. That's the back leg forwards, just a touch. We're looking to get some extension into this left thigh. Another breath. Well done. Move your hips back, left hip right over the knee. Flex your right foot and start to fold forwards. Remember, it's totally fine to grab some blocks and let them help you reach for the floor comfortably with good posture. Bowing down, heart reaching towards your toes. Keeping your breath nice and even and full. Very good. We'll shift forwards. Walk that right foot out to the outside of the mat. And move your hips forwards and down again, now into Lizard Uttanapradasana once again. You can stay on your hands. You can use your blocks again for your forearms. Or you can drop your elbows all the way to the floor. And it's a good chance to notice if there's any difference side to side here in this pose. If you're able to get your elbows down on one side but not the other, or just feeling any difference without judgment, just observe. Just like we did on the other side, if you'd like to stretch your glute a little bit more, take your right foot out to the right, rolling onto the outer blade of the foot. Keep your foot quite active and flexed. Well then, come up to your hands. Wiggle that right foot back into in front of its hip. Tuck your left toes and lift the knee. Turn 90 degrees to the left. This time, rather than a wide-legged fold, we'll take Skandasana, a side lunge. So you'll bend your right knee and move over to the right with the hips, stretching the inner left thigh. You can keep your hips at knee height today, keeping your spine nice and long. Sit down a little bit into it. And take 2 breaths. Both feet stay anchored in this expression. As the hips go lower, you can lift the left foot, but today we're keeping the hips quite high. Move through the center line and over to the left. So bending your left knee, make sure your toes point the same way your knee faces. Get your hips to about knee height-ish until you start to feel a stretch in your right inner thigh. Remember to breathe. Good. You're doing great, Yogi. We'll walk your hands back to center. Turn to face the original front of your mat, so around to the left. Step your left foot back and lower slowly down to your front. You can go through Chaturanga or any other way. We'll come here for a quad stretch. We'll start in Sphinx pose. That's propping up on your elbows. Forearms are parallel. Lift the chest forwards and up. We'll place your left hand behind your right elbow and bend your right knee. See whether you can reach your right hand for the foot and bring the foot in towards your bum. Keep pressing into your left forearm so we're not collapsing. And remember to breathe. Just another couple of breaths. This can be quite intense, so go steady. You can release your foot carefully. Let it rest back on the floor. Bring your right forearm back to the floor. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Take your right hand across a bit for balance. Left knee bends and left hand reaches for the foot. It's okay to get a bit squiffy while you reach, but then try and square forwards a little bit. Bring your foot towards your bum and press into your right arm. It could be that your foot's at full arm extension, or it could be closer. Just breathe into wherever you are. Good job, Yogi. Gently release your foot. Lower down to your front. Take a deep breath. Let it go. Press your way back into child's pose where we first began. Hips all the way back to the feet. Knees apart, perhaps. Just let your spine rest after that Sphinx pose. Carefully make your way up. And you can spin around to a seat. Line yourself all the way down to the floor. Any way you can. Make sure you get into a comfortable position, and we'll finish up with a twist. Stretch your left leg out, right knee bent, right foot on the floor. Move your hips a little bit to the right, and guide your right knee over to the left side of your mat. Your left hand can rest on your right knee or stretch out wide, and look out to the right hand. Bring your right knee back up and head back up to center. Move your hips a little bit to the middle again. And switch your legs. Left foot bends, left knee bends, right foot extends out. Move your hips over to the left. And guide your left knee to the right side. Your left hand can stretch out to the left, and you can look towards that hand. Let your shoulders settle down towards the mat. Just finishing up your practice, so no striving. Let the breath just be easy. Winding down. Letting go. Well done, yogi. Come on up with the left knee. Move everything back to the center. If you like to have a bolster behind your knees when you relax, reach for it now and place it there. If you're comfortable lying flat, you can do so. Just shimmy around a little bit to get comfortable. If you need a pillow under your head or a blanket there, that's okay too. Let your shoulders settle into the mat. Feet falling slightly out. Take a deep breath in. And slowly let it go. No control of a breath needed from here on. Let it be easy. Begin to relax your feet and your lower legs. And then the knees and your thighs. Relax the glutes and release any tension from your pelvis. Bring a softness to your belly. Let it expand with an inhale. And relax with the exhale. The middle of your back and your shoulders, they can melt into the ground. Your arms get comfortable and soften the hands. Make sure the back of the neck feels long. Relax your jaw and tongue. Let all of the muscles in your face relax. Let the eyes become still. Give yourself permission to relax. Starting to wiggle your fingers and your toes. You can bend your knees and walk your feet in towards you. And bring your knees all the way up for a little hug. Rock side to side. And then to your side, just rest there. You can rest your head on your hand or your arm. Pause for a moment. When you're ready to, come up to your seat. Press your way up. And sit comfortably. Let your hands come up to a preposition in front of you, Namaskar. And thank yourself for taking time to practice today. Let's take a breath in and let it go. Thank you for your practice. Namaste.